right. Yes, I'm once again wearing a hat in my videos, but this is how I spend 99% of my time at the house. So I'm just gonna show it how it is. Our first question today comes from Josh Giebel, and what he asked is, what are your favorite US cities or ones that you'd like to visit? Any favorites outside of the US? So as for the US cities that I visited that I really liked, that's a really good question. You know, honestly, the road trip that I went on, which is what obviously this Q&A is coming from, that showed me a few cities that I hadn't been to before that I really enjoyed. And so I guess out of those like 5 cities that I stayed in, a couple of them were ones that I could literally see myself living in, that being Savannah, Georgia, as well as Charleston, South Carolina. I also visited one of my buddies in Charlotte a few months back, and I really enjoyed Charlotte as well. It kind of felt a lot like Austin and was pretty homey for me. And then thinking of other cities I've been to, honestly, like Salt Lake City, Utah, that place was awesome. Granted, I went in the summer, so it was, pretty warm and just really beautiful outside. But that's a more recent place that I've been to within the last couple of years that I really liked. And then places I'd like to visit, I definitely want to make a full trip to like Nashville for one. I've flown into Nashville multiple times, but I've never actually stayed and like spent time there. So I think that would be one place. I think it'd be great to go up to like the Washington State area. I think there's some really beautiful parts of the country up in those parts. And the same would go for like the state of Oregon. I know those aren't cities, but I know that there are some really pretty parts of those states. So that's probably where I would like to go. I've only been to like a few places outside of the US, but out of the ones that I've visited, I'll give you my most underrated pick at least. And that would be a trip that I took up to Victoria, Canada, actually. I think Canada is absolutely beautiful, especially in the summer once again. And I'd love to make another trip up there, but I'd also like to obviously just travel really to like all of the continents. I haven't been to many, so that is one of my goals at some point in my life, and I'm hoping to start doing that next year especially. But of course, time will tell. Now the next question comes from Aaron, and he just asked, spicy or regular chicken sandwich? And this is something I don't think I've really talked about on the channel, but I actually have a couple of food allergies, one being gluten and the other one being dairy. I'm not fully celiac, but I have all the like internal symptoms of being allergic, but I only really found out about that like a couple of years ago. So before that, I'd be getting spicy chicken sandwiches all day. Maybe that's what did it to me, who knows? Dylan asked, would you value the US Bank Altitude Reserve or the Amex Gold card more? That's an interesting one because it's again kind of like the last episode of the Q&A from the road trip where I was comparing the Sabre 1 and the City Premier. I don't necessarily think that these cards are a good one-to-one comparison, and it's really just tough for me to recommend one in particular when I don't know, your personal situation and stuff like that. But I think that the US Bank Altitude Reserve might have an even lower effective annual fee depending on who's using it. If you can't use the credits on the Gold card, then the effective annual fee on the US Bank Altitude Reserve might be easier for you to get down to like 0 or put you in the negative. But again, it all depends on your travel habits. I think one of the main differences between the two cards is that the US Bank Altitude Reserve, for one, gives you 3% back on mobile wallet purchases, which covers like basically every category. But again, the Amex Gold has good categories too. The Amex Gold allows you to transfer your points out to Amex's travel partners though, and that is a big way to get massive upsized value from your points. The US Bank Altitude Reserve, the maximum value you're going to get from that is going to be 1.5 cents per point through their travel portal. So if you're looking for really high upside, technically the reserve is not the way to go there. Our next question here asked if I can tell y'all a little bit more about myself, like what do I like to do, my interests outside of credit cards basically. And I have covered some of this in the previous parts of this Q&A, but to give y'all an answer that's different from those parts, because you can just go back and watch those if you want to hear more about it. One of the big things that I really love to do, and I don't think I mentioned this on the channel before, is that I love going to the lake. Not only do I love fishing and stuff like that, but I also just really love all the water sports, like wake surfing, wakeboarding, water skiing, all that stuff is a lot of fun to me. And going out to the lake with my buddies is honestly probably my one favorite pastime that I have. And of course, I can't do that all the time. I don't have a nice wakeboarding boat or anything like that. But whenever we do get to do that, it's like the time of my life. I also want to mention that one, this is my mom's dog right here who's staying with me for the weekend. But I have these like pillows and weird blankets like down on the couch all the time in my videos, and I've always wondered if y'all have caught on to that. But this is all to protect the couch because Odin sleeps on the couch and we don't want all the dog hair and dog smell in the couch. So if you've been wondering why I have these weird colored blankets and pillows on the couch, that's mainly for Odin. One thing that Porsche wanted to know though from this Q&A is what is my domestic go-to airline? I don't think this is going to be a big surprise to a lot of y'all because you've probably seen a lot of my redemption videos and stuff. But if I'm traveling domestically and I just want to get somewhere quick, since I'm in Austin, Texas, one of our main, airlines out of Austin's airport is going to be Southwest, and they're just easy for me to do. They don't have anything super nice about them, but they also don't have anything super bad from my experience. So I can get to where I want to go very cheaply on Southwest and can actually get a decent redemption rate of like 1.4 to 1.5 cents per point with them. That's not necessarily what I would recommend that everybody does, but considering I have a lot of points that I like to just be able to actually use and help me to offset my travel costs, Southwest has been great for me in that situation. This next question is one that I'm actually pretty excited to answer, and it basically just asked if I could only have one credit card with an annual fee, which one would I pick? Y'all can leave a guess right now if you want to down below before I answer this, because I think like 99% of y'all could actually guess what card I'm about to say. But instead of saying that card that you're thinking, I'm actually gonna switch it up a little bit. I've been thinking that since this most recent road trip redemption that I just made, I don't really have a big hatred towards using travel portals, especially whenever you're booking with a hotel that's not within any kind of ecosystem like Hyatt or Hilton or Marriott. And for me, the maximum amount of value I can get by redeeming in that fashion is 1.25 cents per point with my Chase Sapphire Preferred. And for a long time now, I've been kind of debating whether or not I should maybe make a change to that card, which is why my answer for this specific question actually is going to be the Chase Sapphire Reserve. I think the Chase Sapphire Reserve is just a perfect mix of being able to not only earn in a lot of great earning categories that your daily spend, would be going towards, especially in comparison to a card like the Amex Platinum, for example. But further than that, it's going to be like that one luxury travel card that gives you a lot of really luxury experiences, but also allows you to use your points in basically whatever way you want to get the most value. It allows you to transfer your points out to Chase's travel partners if you want those higher redemptions on those international business class flights and stuff like that, which I have booked one of recently, and I'm excited to tell y'all more about that. It also allows you to book through their travel portal for like those hotels that I'm talking about at a 1.5 cent per point rate, which is not bad. And when I say it's not bad, I mean like for those domestic budget trips that I personally like taking. And I don't even know if budget's the right word, because we're staying at like 4 or 5 star hotels through the travel portal. And if they're not a part, again, of one of those ecosystems like Hyatt or Hilton or Marriott, you're not going to be able to get your points over there in any other way but a travel portal. And to me, 1.5 cents per point is great if it allows me to subsidize my travel costs and travel basically for free. And then on top of that, of course, you can always redeem your points for cash back at 1 cent per point through that card if you really needed to. I wouldn't recommend doing that, of course, if you are somebody that likes to be on team travel, but it's an option, and that option is not given to you on really any other card, with the exception of the Charles Schwab version of the Amex Platinum card, if we're talking about these, premium travel cards like I have been. So for me right now, in the stage of life that I'm in, it honestly would not be a bad idea for me to get the Chase Sapphire Reserve, especially because I also have a Chase Sapphire Terrace Lounge in Austin that you can only get into with the Sapphire Reserve. So who knows, y'all might be seeing me unbox that card soon, and I might be actually upgrading my Chase Sapphire Preferred to that card, mainly for that extra 25% boost in the travel portal, bumping me up to 50%, but also because I'd like to get access to those more luxury things like the Chase Sapphire Terrace Lounge, and I could personally justify the annual fee, which is all that matters. Probably not the answer you were expecting there, but I think that it actually is something I should consider in my personal case. Whether that's right for you or not, I don't really know, and the only way I could know that is if I actually spoke to you personally about your goals. Now, I got 4 rapid fire questions here from Keith, who's a long-term supporter of the channel, and the first thing he asked was, what's the purpose of this trip and where are you going? So obviously I've already released the road trip redemption video, but I did not say exactly why I took this trip, and the main reason was actually because before me and my girlfriend had broken up, we had booked all of these non-refundable stays, across the East Coast, and I wasn't gonna let those points go to waste, and I honestly just really wanted to go see it for myself anyways. And by going by myself, I also got to meet up with my buddies and stuff who live in the area, and it honestly was just an amazing time. But to reiterate where I went, if I can remember correctly, I went from Austin to New Orleans to Hilton Head to Charleston to Savannah to Pensacola Beach, and then back to Austin. So it was quite the haul, and I think it was like 2,600 miles or something like that on my car in like a week's time, but I would do it again. I had an awesome time. Keith also asked, what would be your death row meal? Oof, I could go multiple different ways with this. I think my favorite lately has been just like a good steak with a side of mashed potatoes and a side of air fryer broccoli. I love that crispy dark edge whenever you air fry broccoli. If you put some like garlic powder and stuff on those, man, it's good. I also really love salmon though, so some good salmon, rice, and vegetables always does me really nicely. Keith's third question was, how many points do you plan on using for the trip? Again, I did release the road trip redemption video, and I think I used a total of like 180,000 points. More than maybe you would want to use for this, but I think it was a very realistic redemption that a lot of people probably make on their day-to-day basis and just don't talk about. So in that video, I just wanted to be as transparent as possible and just let you know that even if you don't get a massive redemption rate for your points, if you're making memories that you will never forget because you use your credit card points and not cash, that's all that matters in my opinion. Keith's fourth question was, what credit card do you use for that gas guzzler? So I think I might have mentioned this in like a past what's in my wallet or something, but I actually just use the City Custom Cash and I leave it in my car. So if you ever see my car, please don't rob me. It has my City Custom Cash in there, and probably shouldn't have even said that, but hey, most of y'all are good people, right? Next up is a question from a newer YouTuber in like the self-development niche that I actually really like. And what Damon asked is, what are some top career goals that you are currently working on? Gosh, I could talk about this for about 10 minutes, but I know y'all don't really care that much probably about this answer, but I know my true supporters do, so I'm gonna explain it just really quick. So for those of y'all that don't know, I do YouTube full-time now, and what that means is that monetization does matter a lot for my channel. And up to this point, the main ways that I monetize and am able to do this for a living are going to be through the actual YouTube AdSense that I get paid from Google. Of course, I have sponsored content as well, and then I have affiliate links that I post in the descriptions, and whenever y'all use those, it directly supports me. Now, I don't know if you can tell or not, but all of those different income streams are super associated with YouTube. A month or so ago, we had our AdSense rates get like cut in half randomly, and that just, dropped my income by a lot. Luckily, I have those other income streams, and hopefully y'all understand why I have those. It's literally so I can keep doing this. And those kept me afloat in that time, but it made me realize that still I need to be diversifying away from YouTube if I can. Granted, I did just release a more niche product in my consulting service that is also directly tied to YouTube, of course. If my YouTube channel goes away, that consulting technically would, but I don't even expect that to be a massive revenue driver. It's really just for those who want that dedicated one-on-one time with somebody that could help them save thousands of dollars if they just don't know exactly what they're doing. It is a higher ticket item though, so it's not obviously for everybody. But all of that aside, my main goal for my career right now is to continue to work towards building something that I can sustain if YouTube was to, for whatever reason, go away. I'm still within like my first 1 to 2 years of having this channel though, and I expect this to be a more long-term career, at least like 5 to 10 years. So I have a lot of time to work on that, and I just, right now, my main career goal is to not burn out, honestly. Posting 2 videos a week, while it might not sound like a ton, honestly is like super intensive. So if I can either find systems to help me better manage my time so that I can, not hit that burnout point, or just figure out a way to have my velocity of video uploads and stuff like that be exactly what I need to maintain a lifestyle while also working as hard as I possibly can. So I guess my 2 career goals right now is 1, to not burn out, and 2, to kind of diversify my income streams a little bit more to just help me through the times when I might not be able to control what my income does. Next up is a question from Matt Welter, another great credit card content creator here on the platform. Matt said, you have 3 hours on a Friday afternoon and can do anything. Money isn't a limitation. What do you do? Maybe part of me just hasn't experienced enough yet to really know, all what's out there. But thinking back on my answer from earlier about like my hobbies and stuff like that, I cannot think of better times in my life than those when I was just spending it with like my closest buddies, and we were out on the lake tubing and wakeboarding and stuff like that, maybe having a couple of beverages, but that's beside the point. But just spending time together outside in the sun on the water, like that just sounds like a ton of fun to me. 3 hours might not be quite enough to scratch that itch, but I think that'd probably be my answer, just to enjoy quality time with the people that I love. Abdullahi asked a question too. He's also a newer content creator in the credit card space, so go check him out. But he asked, do you like to stay indoors or do you like to be outside? I think my answer so far probably covered this one, but I do prefer to be outside when I can. Ironically, I work a job that requires me to be at a computer for like all day, every day, 7 days a week. But luckily I have the freedom to be able to go out when it's sunny and spend time either with Odin or in our pool and stuff like that. But if I could choose any day of the week, I'm taking outside over inside. Of course, whenever it's not 110 degrees in this Texas heat. Isabel Hernandez left a comment as well saying, is there a way to purchase with points and then pay the remaining using your credit card? If yes, could you do a video of it? But what I think you're asking here is like, maybe when it comes to booking a hotel through a travel portal, for example, do you have the option of using just all cash or partial points and partial cash? Assuming that's what you're asking, the answer is yes, you can do that. And I actually just kind of made a video about that in my road trip redemption that I posted last week, because the way that I booked a couple of these hotels was that I wanted to use the travel credit on my Capital One Venture X and the hotel credit on my Chase Sapphire Preferred. And the only way to activate those is by paying partially in points and partially in cash. They make it really simple through the checkout process. You can just input the amount of points you want to use and it pops out how much cash you'd have to use on top of that. So I just got it as close to $300 and $50 as I could. And that's exactly how it worked out fine for me. If you're talking about like purchasing things in store with points or cash or a little bit of both, you can't necessarily do that. I mean, maybe if you were purchasing online and then picking up in the store, you could do that. But the same thing would apply, and I'd assume they'd make it pretty obvious as to how you can do that in that situation as well. Hopefully that answered your question, but if it didn't, feel free to like DM me on Instagram at Spencer Johnson Official, and I'll help you out. Okay, back to where we were at the start of the video, and now it's time to answer Anthony Tamburo's question. What he asked is, what is your biggest goal in the next 1 to 2 years outside of YouTube? Ooh, that is a great question. Another one that I could probably spend 10 to 15 minutes on, but I'm gonna try to keep it really succinct. I think in the next 1 to 2 years, one of my goals is definitely going to be traveling more. Now that I'm working as a full-time content creator and have the freedom to work from wherever I want, there's no excuse for me not to travel. I also have a credit card channel, so I have a lot of credit card points, and that just gives me more reason to travel. So that's definitely one thing. I wanna make some more international trips. Of course, I'm gonna document everything on the channel, but I want to exercise the freedom that I have right now. With that being said, I also am in a temporary stay right now while I'm trying to figure out where I want to move next. And I think my goal, honestly, in the next year or so would be to move to a couple of places that I know I like already for maybe 2 weeks to a month and do some long-term Airbnbs. Because if I'm staying in Texas, I'm staying in Austin and I've always lived in the same area. So it's probably time for me to branch out a little bit. And I think doing those long-term Airbnbs would be a better move than just going and getting a full apartment somewhere. And I'd like to do that within the next 1 to 2 years. Of course, now I'm single too. So if I meet somebody in the next 1 to 2 years, maybe we'll start to kind of settle down a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm going to get married in that time frame though. That's pretty quick. But I think that covers all of the major life categories there, and those would be my goals for each.